Let's take a look at the fundamentals of information security. Now, we need to make sure that we understand why we're securing things down. Typically, we're going to start off with authenticity, meaning when Bruce Wayne logs in and he tries to gain access to a resource, we want to make sure that that's actually Bruce Wayne. Or if I'm trying to gain access to my bank, the bank wants to make sure that it is actually me trying to get into my account information. We refer to that as authenticity. The next one is making sure that we support the integrity of the data, meaning that we trust the source of where that data is stored. So again, if I'm trying to get into my checking account, I want to make sure I'm actually on my bank's website, right? And then I'm getting into the data, and the data there that represents my account is valid. Next, we want to look at availability. Now, when it comes to availability, typically in the IT world, we think of high availability or, for example, redundant power supplies, or I'm going to have a RAID of some type for my hard drives to protect those. Or I may have a cluster of servers combined together, so if one fails, another server picks up to where it left off. That's not really the availability we're talking about here. When it comes to information security, we need to make sure that people can get to their data and they're not being denied access to that data. One of the biggest hacks out there right now that we hear about all the time is something called a denial of service attack, or a DOS. A DOS is designed to refuse availability for users to gain access to resources. So if I was a malicious hacker that I wanted to go out and cause some grief for PayPal, me doing a denial of service attack against PayPal is going to stop them from being able to continue doing business with their users. So we're denying availability, which costs companies thousands and millions of dollars. Another thing we may want to take a look at here when it comes to information security is confidentiality. Some of the biggest headlines today in security evolve around companies whose databases get hacked and their customer information gets revealed or gets exposed. Very, very famous case in Utah where I live. A hospital had done backups, and they'd taken their backups, and every Friday they take the backup tapes. A courier service comes along, picks up the tapes, and takes them to a location that's called Granite Mountain. Granite Mountain it's exactly that. It's a big vault that is built inside of a mountain that they can store information. And it's because it's granite and it's indoors. It's naturally at a certain temperature and perfect humidity. Anyway, the courier came and picked up the tapes, but instead of going to deliver them, he decided to go home for the weekend. And he left the nice aluminum metal case in the back of his car. And over the weekend, somebody walked by, saw a nice-looking case, probably thought it was full of CDs, and broke into it and took off with the tapes. Yeah, somebody was looking for a job that next week, huh? It cost that hospital hundreds of thousands of dollars because they had to go and make sure that everybody, all their patients, whoever's records were on those tapes, and it was not just most recent, it was like a full backup. They had to go buy identity protection services for those patients. It is really, really quite big. News article here. It's like when I go to my doctor's office, what are my expectations for confidentiality? I give them all kinds of information, social security number, health records. So we have to make sure that we secure things that would be considered confidential. And then, of course, one of the other big issues is non-repudiation. Now, what we mean by non-repudiation is we don't want people to modify data without accountability. So, for example, if Dick Grayson modifies a document, we don't want Dick Grayson to ever say, well, that wasn't me. Typically, we rely on other security mechanisms, but we're able to go back and say, no, Dick Grayson, you actually modified it on this date at this time from this workstation. So these are the main concepts or main foundations of information security, why we do information security.